This time of the year is one of less light, at least a certain kind of light, solar light. But there's also a way that the darkness can hold us, by way of a different quality of illumination, revealing a light that isn't always able to be perceived in more solar and sunny times. It's a more lunar light, that light of the lunar descent, the light of the moon. Not only the moon up there in the sky, but the moon that is alive in our hearts, which is mirrored out in nature by the moon in the sky. And though I think it's kind of paradoxical really, but we can be held by the darkness as well. Though this sort of holding isn't always so well understood in our world. And there's a softness and a benevolence in it if we can find a way to open and rest in it. And, our friends, the alchemists, had an image of this, the black sun, which invites us into an experiential world where the light and the dark come together in a certain sort of union, which I think is a good metaphor for the path that we're exploring together, and how our true nature, the larger transpersonal self, contains the wisdom of the lunar as well as that of the solar. And it's in their relationship and facilitating a dialogue between them that an embodied transformation and healing is able to take birth and to really flower here. And so this dialogue between the ego and the self requires an opening into not knowing, a new way of listening to the wisdom of the body and the unconscious, to our dreams and to the imaginal world, and a new way of attuning to the creative intelligence and the depths of the soul. And of course, it's love that's doing the containing, that is serving that containing function. And so opening into the nature of this love and being a vessel for that to come into our bodies and our world, into this star, into the relational field is one of our tasks, we might say, one of our sacred tasks on this path, to be a location in which those sparks of light can find their way here. I'm not sure that they can make it without us, without each of our unique ways of holding that and of allowing that to express through us and to scatter out into the neural circuitry of the world. And there's a Taoist alchemical text that you may have heard of. It's called The Secret of the Golden Flower. And it describes a process that they call turning the light around, which is what we're doing here, turning the light around to the heart, shining a lamp into our path, which at times can be pretty dimly lit, illuminating the shadow and coming to perceive the emerald and the silver and the gold that is here, that is hidden at the very core of the personality. And perhaps it's a bit more sparkly than we have imagined or have been able to imagine, and this invitation into reimagination is such a vital part of healing, the capacity to reimagine, especially in the face of early relational trauma, which is that wounding that goes to the very heart of that capacity to imagine, to play, to dream, to move into flow states of awe, of reverie, unknowing, and the simple, causeless joy of being. And so whether we're focusing on psychological work, healing the wounds of the heart, those core wounds around love, as they manifest as relational and attachment trauma or narcissistic injury or hurt, betrayal, abandonment of all kinds, of not being seen, of not being known, of not being accompanied, or whether we're tending to the more spiritual or transpersonal bands of the spectrum of consciousness. And that experiential connection or reconnection with our true nature. Open, warm presence, luminosity, space, compassion. You know, both the sun and the moon will be with us as our guides, our friends and fellow travelers. And at times, the lunar light will be the right medicine for our weary, achy, tender bodies and nervous systems and hearts. And at other times, it will be something more solar, more active, more fiery. And this was the task that the alchemist faced as she came into her laboratory. You know, what type of heat is being called for? Which flavor of transmutation are the materials desiring or longing for? And in the end, it will be a union of solar and lunar, you know, holding the tension of the opposites so that a new third thing can emerge, which contains them both. And this is the unio mystica of the mystical and the alchemical traditions, the coming together of lover and beloved and that third unknown thing that emerges as a product of that union. And we see this expressed in the poetry of Rumi, for example, or John of the Cross, or Hafiz, or Mirabai. And in more contemporary times, Mary Oliver, or Emily Dickinson, or William Blake, and on and on. And so thank you for being here with me and with one another as we open together, you know, into the creative unknown, where we can really provide that confirmation, that accompaniment into the mystery. And while at times it can feel like we're so alone, that we're out there wandering around in the forest in Dante's dark wood, in other ways we're never truly alone. There are always friends nearby, seen and unseen, who may be closer than we might imagine. Lamps in the darkness that we can find, or that can find us, and which we can provide to one another.